So we're going to read some of the questions that's on here, and some of it's going to be around family, some of it's going to be around the stuff that we've been sharing a little bit about, more mystic prayer, mystic theology, mysticism, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to look into that stuff a little bit more tonight, some of the questions. But if something comes up at some point, feel free to throw it out into the comment box. So I'm going to start with one by Angelique, because she's got a lot of questions. And basically, this is the question. She says, how do you become quiet and stay in the rest of the Lord in a time where so many people are prophesying about revival and mass conversions and the billion soul harvest? And then the question is basically, is all of this coming out of a place of rest? And is our image of revival maybe a little bit twisted? So that's a pretty good question, I think. So firstly, without rest, there cannot be revival. That's the main thing, So unless we come out of a place of rest, we're not really going to see a true sustainable move of the Spirit of God. And all the stuff we spoke about, entering into the presence, mystic prayer, all of those things, all of it is centered around the concept of rest, because rest is a sign of faith. If you read Hebrews chapter 4. So without faith, there cannot be rest. And you have to contend to go into the rest of the Lord, because that's actually the Shabbat, the true, and it's not about being Jewish or anything. That's actually entering into the true rest of God. And if you read Hebrews chapter 4, you look at that, you see the whole story. The writer is talking about the fact that Joshua, even though he took them into the promised land, there was still a promise of rest that's awaiting the body of Christ. And we actually entered into that rest, right? And without really stepping into that, we're always going to be in a place where it's striving and it's contention. And revival needs to come. I mean, revival has to be birthed out of faith. And where there's faith, there's rest. So the question is, is our image of revival wrong? It could be, but maybe our question of our understanding of rest might also be wrong. Because a lot of us might have a weird idea. What does this rest sound like? Rest to me, it means that I'm at peace in the midst of what's going on. I've protected myself firstly in terms of my spiritual walk. My spiritual walk needs to be secure, because as long as that is in place, then I'm in rest. And if that is okay, then my wife and kids will be fine. Those around me should be fine. So for me, it has to come back to that place of rest. Now the problem is when God starts moving. That gets interesting, when he really starts moving, because there's momentum and things pick up and it goes really fast, and it's awesome, and everything is awesome about it. I haven't been part of flat out revival, but we've been part of small outpouring, small moments where you could see something is really moving, and it's so exciting, it's so awesome that you actually. And there's grace in it, because there's a supernatural element that comes with it. But then at some point, you just need a break. So David Hogan wisely said to me one day in his accent, he said, "Boy, you need to rest sometimes, because the Holy Ghost will make you crazy." So and it's true, because that momentum, it actually picks up, and it's like, we joked about it, and you guys were there. We talk about percolating. It's like when you cannot sleep, because it's like the Spirit is just moving. You're just kind of in that place. You're like a coffee pot that's just going, and that is so awesome. But sometimes you need to get the switch off. I remember I did meetings one time. It was crazy. I actually think it was the ones in Cape Town with you guys, some of you. I mean, we had gold teeth. It was wild. And I left directly out of the surf. You kind of dragged me on the car, and I got in time at the airport. And at some point, I finally got through the check-in, and I sat down. And the next minute, I couldn't remember where I was flying to. I was like, I have no idea where I'm going. I don't know if I'm in Cape Town or Johannesburg, then I realized I might need a break. I might need to just unplug a little bit for a while and just get into that. So rest is rooted in faith. So yes, there cannot be a move without faith and without rest. And the massive harvest, remember, when you're in destiny, it feels like rest because there's grace. So this harvest, it comes in, but there's an energizing capacity to it because there's joy in the field as well. But in it, you need to be able to physically rest as well, right? And in the same breath, I also believe to be able to push the boundaries of your own capacity. So do you understand? Like, you have to be able to push beyond what you feel is humanly possible because there is a supernatural grace that comes there, but then also be wise enough to know that I actually need a break. And that's why you have a wife, by the way, right?
Yes.
That's it. So I don't know that answers your question a little bit, but for me, that's kind of that balance. And when it comes to the souls, that is going to come out of rest. Remember, Bob Jones prophesied. He prophesied over the decades, and he said that 2020 is going to be the decade of rest. And if the church is going into rest, and the more I'm looking at stuff, and the more I'm reading, and the more I'm journeying into into the whole thing of just the whole mystic realm and going deeper with God. Everything is rooted in rest. Everything is rooted in rest. And that doesn't mean you're not active in the Lord or busy. It just means there's a calm inside of you. And that's the balance, I think, is to find kind of that place to move out of being busy in the field without busyness, being effective, but in the same time being at rest on the inside, because out of that rest we actually hear God better, and we just sharper. When I'm too tired, I'm not hearing well from the Lord. So and that's just the truth. When I'm too tired, I don't get dreams. When I'm too tired, I don't. It's just not as sharp as it should be. So you have to find that place, and then you get children, and it's all out of the window anyway. So yeah. So I don't know if that helped a little bit. If that makes sense.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
I would just like to add on the topic of rest. I mean, just what Henk's been saying. When the word from Bob Jones and all the prophets came that the next decade it will be the decade of rest, the decade of souls. I was really asking the question, do I even know what it is? And we've really been digging into the topic of rest, and I really want to encourage you guys, if you're not sure what it means, and I mean, obviously it's so deep, the revelation of rest it's amazing. Start with Genesis. The Passion Translation is amazing. There's new resources that Brian Simmons have put out, and it is crazy. It's been keeping me up. I've been waking up early in the morning just to spend time in Genesis, and rest is such a big part of it. It's part of the creation. It's the seventh day. It is our destiny, is rest. That's where God wants us. So dig into that thing. If you're not sure about the topic or whatever, get your kids, your family, especially in this time. Don't miss out. Don't miss out. Ask, and you shall receive the revelation of rest, and you shall enter. And it's just crazy. And just for us, and for me personally, in this time of rest, if you're too tired, you can even lose your hunger. If you're too tired at night, and by 9 o'clock die braaivleis is nog nie reg nie, 10 uur is die braaivleis nog nie reg nie, then I'm not hungry even anymore. I just leave it. I just want to go to bed. And Heidi Baker said this amazing thing once. She said, just sleep, and you'll wake up with an appetite. And that is the thing of rest. If we're not in rest, we're not hungry spiritually, we get all kind of illnesses physically, and our bodies just give up. And I can say, from just coming out of a very busy season, the last 18 months or 4 years, I don't know, it's crazy. Coming into this specific lockdown season of rest, very forced, season of rest, it's just been amazing. I've just been falling in love with Jesus more than ever before. I've been falling in love with God, just so hungry. And that made me fall in love with Henk more. I've been falling in love with my children like never before. I've been seeing things about them and about their future and their destiny like I've never, and it's just such an example. I think God is just giving us a taste of what it means to be at rest, completely just surrendered, in obedience. Obviously, I mean, things still goes on, but I don't want to lose this feeling that I have ever again. The peace, the rest, the calm, the joy, and that is what it's about. Like perfect harmony between God and man. I'm just so blessed by the whole theme of rest, and I thought I knew what it's about, but I had no clue, and I'm still digging in and asking God for more revelation. So I'm very excited, and I hope you guys are as well. Just go for it. Just dig in the topic.
Yeah, and also I want to add to that. I think the fact that we're all forced into rest a little bit should probably be a good sign that the harvest is coming. So, and the point being that if you're, there's farmers on here, so I don't want to say anything stupid, but if you're a farmer, when the seed's in the ground, when it's harvest time, it's harvest time. It's happening now. So you don't have a choice about, which way to go or anything like that. You need to make sure that you're on it, and there's times and there's seasons. And that's why we need to still be, we need to be sensitive to the Spirit as to when to rest, when to move. When He's working, we need to work. When He's to be found, we need to be out there. And again, in waiting on Him, there is supernatural rest, as I shared last week, Isaiah 40:31. Those who wait upon the Lord shall receive new strength. So it's that balance in all of that. There's I don't know if you've ever heard of, what is her name? Frances Metcalf. I don't know if you've heard of the Golden Candlestick ladies. So anyway, if you haven't, that's out there. But anyway, so she basically in the 40s, God called her. They all did Bible school. Some of them did Bible school at Amy Semple McPherson's kind of seminary. And so they came out of that. They were on fire, just burning for the Lord, prophetic lady. And then God told her, after many years of intercession and prayer, so it was 1942, I think, God spoke to her and said to her, you will have no public ministry. I'm calling you to minister to me for the rest of your life. So for the next 50 years, that's what she did with a group of people. So they went into, just ministering unto the Lord, literally in the basement of her home. Okay, now they had groups between 40 and 50 people gather for prayer. And before that, she was a prayer warrior already. And they basically, the stuff they experienced it's out there, right? So, my cage is rattled a little bit when I'm listening to all of it in a really good way, but it's profound. And they would start 6 or 7 at night, and they would keep going until 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe all night. She was a mother, she had her own children, she was married, and they did that 5 to 6 nights a week for 50 years. So that's pretty profound. And then at some point she was praying one night, and she went into a trance, and the Lord spoke to her and said to her, I'm taking you into a whole different realm. And she said, I'm taking you into a prayer ministry. And she went, but Lord, I've been an intercessor my whole life, and now you say I'm going into a prayer ministry. And then the Lord said, yes. He said to her, you've been an eagle waiting and an eagle warrior unto me, but I'm turning you into a dove. And I might touch on that on Sunday, but I'm turning you into a dove. And she says, and then the Lord said to her, unless you learn how to go into rest, you will never be able to go into the realm that I want to open up to you. And she had to learn about the connection between going into the presence of the Lord, trances, visions, translations, heavenly encounters. Can I share this? Is that listen, guys? They would, like the guy who they had a basement, right? And in it, so what would happen is there was a door. This guy saw a door in the basement, and he always believed that it's a door, like you open it and you go into a new room. And then years after all of these ladies died, he went to that house again. And he went into the basement, and one of the ladies, she's now in their 80s or something. And they go through the house again, and he's like, hey, but there's supposed to be a door here. What happened to the door? Did they change it? And she just laughs at him, and she's like, there never was a door. He's like, no, there was a door. She's like, yeah, there was a door, but there was never a physical door. It was like literally, it was like a gate, and they would just go in and out. It was bizarre what happened to these ladies. But the point was this, that God said, unless you go into rest, you're not gonna see any of it, right? So that rest thing is massive, for us to get and to understand, because rest means we really trust Him, with all our striving. So yeah, it's a process for me. So I don't know. I hope that helps. Is that okay? That answer the question? All right. Okay. I'm going to jump. I'm just going to give Angelique a break, and I'm going to answer one of Peter's questions before I go back to her. All right. Peter is asking, so how do we approach the Xhosa culture and context with us not being Xhosa culturally and in context? All right.
Look.
Yeah.
Ziggy is laughing.
Ziggy, you can answer that question.
Ziggy is our close-up friend.
Well, listen, we're all missionaries. So firstly, let's start with that. And the point of whatever you do is you need to, Paul said, I become all things unto all people, so that I can reach them for Christ. And obviously there's never compromise in any of that. There cannot be compromise in the way we approach things. Whatever is ungodly in culture, we resist and we stand against. So for me, and if it's working or not, I'm not sure. So Peter, I don't know, Vesel can also, comment on that. But our approach was just, I think in the missions world, there's a lot of, missiology and a lot of things going out there about these things, which is super powerful, and there's a lot of wisdom and understanding in all of that. And to understand culture is super important. I fully believe in that. I do, however, think that at some point we put too much of an emphasis on that. My personal opinion. I think we went too far in kind of a little bit of our approach to that. You have to understand people's culture, but the principle is, if you just love people and honor them, you're gonna try and understand them anyway. So for me, we all know Bill Johnson's famous message on the culture of honor. If you haven't heard it, it's just phenomenal. The principle is, whatever I honor in somebody else, that can be released into my life. And it's the same, by the way, with the heavenly and the angelic realm. If I honor that realm, it comes into my sphere. Do you understand? So the same with people. If I come out of a place of honoring people, they'll see that. And so I don't know everything about the culture I'm in. I don't. But I ask questions, and I'm trying to be sensitive, and I ask them, listen, have I messed up? Am I missing something? Are we doing something wrong? Because, we come from Gauteng, so our contact with the Xhosa culture has been zero up to we moved here, basically, So for us, it really is a culture shock or shift or change or whatever you want to call it. So it was completely new. Some of you guys grew up in Western Cape, Eastern Cape, where we have a lot of Xhosa speaking people. So for us, it was a big shift in that sense. But again, we've done missions, all over, and outreaches and stuff. So the simplicity of it is just, if you love the person, if you just did what Jesus did, just love the person, they will respond. Knowledge about the culture absolutely helps. Because even Jesus honored culture. If you think about when he healed the blind guy, when he spit and he made the mud, he told him, actually go and cleanse yourself at the pool of Shiloh. So he was kind of honoring the Mosaic law. He was honoring what was already there without compromising in any way. So that's the first thing. Is just, you have to be sensitive to it. You live there, Peter. So I know where you live, and what you. It's a people that takes great pride in their culture, which is right. All of us do in some form, I guess. So if you miss that part, you lose a group of people very easily. And arrogance is obviously never. for me, the biggest thing, you lose people through arrogance. That's it. If you're arrogant, if you think you have the answers and you come into their world and tell them how to do it, you can just leave. It's not going to work. You've lost them before you started. But if you come in humbly and you come in serving and you come in trying to understand, that'll open their heart. But in the same breath, I often say to guys, listen, we are not, this is not Malawi, this is not Zambia, this is not Madagascar, or, so in other places in Africa, if you come being a white South African, right, like, sometimes the people are excited to see you because I don't know why. But if you enter into the villages of the Transkei, they're not necessarily excited to see you. They're like, no, we know you guys, We've seen this movie before, so there's a lot of history, Ziggy. So there's a lot of history that you need to break through to get their trust. And that's why, Peter, I don't even know if I'm on the topic yet, but that's why short-term outreach, it is effective, but you need to be careful because people have seen that as well. They go, you're going to come in, you're going to preach, and you're gone, and then we're here on our own. You're going to tell me Jesus is awesome, but bye-bye. And you have to break through that as well. So consistency is super important, and that speaks. So at the beginning, very excited. Then the distrust come in because you're going to leave, and then you outlive the doubters, and then there's an opening up again where they go, all right, but you can be trusted because you're still here, So, so that's part one of your question. Part two is the fact that I'm Afrikaans and all the wrong stuff.
Yes, a Malungu, baby.
I'm a Malungu. I'm all the wrong stuff for the area, basically, if you want to look at it that way. So how do we relate? It's hard, but the power is in the scripture. So that's what I found. All people love to be taught the truth, especially if it brings deliverance and freedom. So if you can bring them the truth and you don't make it about color or anything, but you make it about catching their hearts, and you can show out of scripture that this is not a white idea, this is not a Western American idea, this is a Jesus idea. And by the way, Jesus' skin color looked a lot more like yours than it did like me, so get the pale white Jesus out of your head, and so that way you contextualize without lying because it's the truth, So that's the thing. And then again, let the again, a friend of mine told me one day, he said, the truth is awesome. The truth is like a cancer, in the good way. So if you just throw the truth in there, you leave it and you let it grow on the people, right? Because the truth sets free, and the truth of the gospel, it's got this ability to grow inside of the heart of people into an area. And your job is throw the truth in there and just get that to them. If they want to disagree about it, that's okay. But at the end of the day, the word of the Lord is going to stand, is not going to change. So that's the one way. That's part one, is the word. You have to move on the word. Bring them the word. Show them the scriptures. Drive them crazy with scriptures in a good way. But you need to be, on that and make it practical. Bring it home to them. And the other thing is obviously power. It's manifestations of the power of God. That because they need to see that. They're used to that. So they have to see power. They have to see that this thing moves, and that this gospel is actually, it's more than just empty talk, You want to add something?
Wow, super, ja, kann ich sprechen. No, just go to the next question.
Next question. Is that okay, Peter? Did that help you out? Yeah, if I can expand if you want, but so yeah, it's just go in low and commit. That's the thing, commit. If you tell something, don't lie to them. Don't lie to them. If you say you're going to be there, be there. If you say you're here to stay, be here to stay. If it's just in and out, then fine, just be in and out. But let them know that. Let them make up their minds beforehand. And then, that's what we always say. It's a simple concept, but getting people converted is a lot of fun. making the baby is easy. Discipling the thing into maturity, that's a different story. That's where the blood, sweat, and tears. That's where it happens. By the way, that's where because you get stabbed in the back and you pour into somebody's life and they turn on you, and all of that stuff, and you have to be okay with it, and it's hard. It's really hard. But the more it happens to you, the better you get at it. So there's an old movie. Do you remember Mighty Ducks, that hockey movie? I'll never forget. They asked the one guy, he's like, man, don't you hate losing? He's like, the more you lose, the better you get at it. It's kind of like that, but then when you have that one success, man, it's awesome. And it's exciting, but it takes time. It's cross-cultural. And it's just the grace of the Lord needs to be on it. It needs to be on it. So, yeah. Okay. Right. So I'm just going to get to that question. Johannes, that's you guys, and Marise, I would like to ask something more practical on marriage and ministry. As a couple leading in ministry together, how do you guys navigate your spiritual rhythm in terms of praying together, Bible study together, hearing God together, and finding and understanding each other's strengths and gifts and flowing in that? Wow. Yeah.
We have 4 children. We never do anything together. We just go to bed together.
Yeah, we don't talk that much. No, I'm just kidding. No. Do you want to start?
No, you can start. I'll add.
I don't listen. Like, we're newlyweds, basically, if you think about it, some other people. So 10 years in. And we can write books about how not to do it.
Yes.
That we can probably more about that than about how to do it. So, but we've had good people around us, and we failed a lot, and but we're figuring it out. And even in this season, it's new again. And the next season it looks different. So I think it's, for me, in that place of marriage, and just it's a priority thing. And the most liberating thing I ever heard personally was, because all of us kind of heard somewhere in life that it's God first, then family, then ministry, that whole thing, which it's an awesome revelation, and it's so good. But I've never liked it. Even before I got married, I absolutely despised that thing. I don't know why. Just something about it just really aggravated me. And it's not because I wanted to throw my family under the ministry bus, or I wanted to throw my ministry under the family bus. It's not that. I just never liked it. And then one day I spoke to a good friend and a wise man, and he looked at me and he said to me, it's not the one or the other, it's both. We are going to stand before God, all of us who are married, standing in that, whether you're married or in a relationship, meaning with people. You have people that you disciple, you have people, spiritual family, it doesn't really matter. But you are going to stand before God on both of those issues equal. He's going to look at marriage, and he's going to look at calling. So it's not the one or the other. And the problem is when you make it in in a kind of an order or a hierarchy or whatever, your problem is that you feel tension. Well, I do. I feel tension that, okay, but now, ministry is flying. So, what about this now? We're now family, but when family gets priority, everything is fine. And I never liked that. But this makes sense to me, because God is not a God, he's full of grace and he's full of truth. John 1, verse 18, 17. So he's not a one-dimensional God that can only be this thing or that thing. He's all of it, and we have to emulate the Father in who we are. And to do that, we need to be able to hold more than one thing equal in front of him. And in one season, it's going to be ministry. So then we navigate into ministry, and there's a burst of energy that goes into that. You just heard her. We had a very busy couple of years, but we started a new work, so it took a lot of us. We never neglected family, but we understood that, listen, it's going to be a push now. And then there's seasons where family gets, preeminence over ministry, and it should. And the balance in that is, again, it's intimate, it's hearing from the Lord. Because if I'm close to Him, I'm going to get these two. I'm going to get this right. Wow. Hopefully. That's the hope. If I can love Him well, I'm going to love her well. I'm going to love my children well. So that's the first thing I want to say on that. And that's just what we've seen, in the whole thing. About the routine and getting things together, I'm going to be brutally honest on that. We both wake up early most of the time, right? We get up early and we spend time with the Lord. Not always, because sometimes our life is weird, and it just is. Sometimes you're catching airplanes, or you're driving all night, or you've just went until 12 at night with ministry stuff, and so it's just, we would love to have it cookie cut, but it doesn't work that way. But we do spend time with the Lord every day, whatever that looks like, right? But like in a season like this where it's awesome, we both get up early. I come and sit in my office, she sits in her spot, and she spends time with the Lord the way she loves doing it. I spend time with the Lord the way I love doing it. And then we come together, and it's spontaneous over breakfast, over coffee, whatever. We talk and we share about what happened. And then I saw this and she saw that, and we're excited. And then at night, when we have specific things that we want to pray about, then we sit together and we pray about those things. So it's not like we pray together every day in that sense, and we come together and we have a time of prayer. Maybe we should, I don't know, but
Dankie on that, it's a good idea.
But it just doesn't always happen like that, but the point is, there's always connection, and when I get something I'm excited about, I'm like, hey, honey, you should see this. This is crazy. Those ladies walk through the wall, whatever, and whatever the story might be. But it's just so it's constantly in our walk, and that makes it very natural for us. So for me, I believe in organic and natural, in terms of these things, because the minute it steps out of that, you feel pressure, and that becomes a religious thing, and it kind of breaks you. So that's how we do it. Marise is awesome. She's like, super humble. So she asks a lot of questions of me. She'll come off and say, well, what do you think about this? And so there's always talk in the house, and so that's fun, But she likes asking, which makes it, really easy for me in that sense. And she's got amazing revelations. So I often preach her revelations.
Yes, he does.
And so it's just the awesome flow of stuff, So that's when it comes to that part. When it comes to hearing God together, say something first before we jump into the second part of that question.
Yeah, I mean, this is good. This is all of these. It's good habits. It's godly habits. It's just good for your marriage. It's good for your family to pray together, to be together. But just like with church, there's corporate, and even in your family, there's corporate moments of worship and praying together and making declarations or whatever. And then there's times I don't want him there when I'm with Jesus. Sometimes, like, it's personal. It's intimate for me. I do it in a way I don't want, because sometimes I like to worship, and I just want to be with Jesus, like just me, not as a wife, not as a mother, not as a ministry partner, not as a missionary with a team. It's just me, and obviously those moments are so important. But then the corporate family moments are very important. That's when we gather the kids and they know what's going on. We're praying into stuff. We bless them. We prophesy over each other. Our kids get turns that the whole family prophesies over them. And so all of it is good. As long as it's vibrant, it's alive, there's life, there's enjoyment. I mean, that's awesome. So that's the way. And it goes through seasons. It really does. Just having small babies messed up lots of stuff, like change things around. Just, oh my word, we are just been adapting. But it's awesome. Like every season is awesome.
Yeah, like when we're in the village, so Wessel and Marley, they're on here, so
Boy, bietjie Wessel and Marley, boy.
And
that's right.
So for now things are getting easier for us, not for them. They just had a baby, so
Is 9 maande oud, nee?
But for us, things have become easier, but also in the village, things have become easier. So when we're staying there together as missionary families, we actually start at 7:30 in the morning, and we have corporate time together with the Lord. Children, everybody on the carpet, the whole team that lives on the base, they all come in, and we just pray together, and we worship together, and for half an hour, 45 minutes, depending on what happens, and then life goes on, So we just try and bring family into stuff as much as we can, but there's the personal times as well. And so when it comes to understanding each other's strengths and gifts and flowing in that, that's a journey, and what I mean with that is it.
Yo, baby, huh? Ooh.
I don't have gifts. Marise have gifts. I'm just humble. I'm just a servant, so.
Glad nie waar nie.
So no, I mean, to me, that comes down to roles, understanding your roles in the marriage first. So I just spoke to Marise last night. I don't know, I saw something.
Amen.
And I just said to her, I think the issue a lot of time about women in ministry, and this is a hot topic, so I'm not even going to step further than what I'm going to say now, right? You can inbox me or come and visit me, and I'll tell you the whole story. But the issue about women in ministry has taken a wrong position in the conversation. And what I want to say with that, that's part two of the conversation. Part one is the role of husband and wife in the marriage. So that is where everything springs from, according to me, right? And this is just my 5 cents. So, because we make the topic women in ministry, should they, shouldn't they, all of that stuff. The question should go back to the home structure. And is the home structure, is that right? Because if that's right, a lot of other things flow very naturally out of that place, whatever that should look like. But so the roles in the house is super important, because there is a role, there is a function, there is a job description according to scripture that God gives to husband and wife, right? And it's different, children, no children, all of that stuff. But within that, there's certain order, that needs to be maintained in the household before the flow can actually start going into the ministry. And I'm not contradicting myself, because again, the other thing is I don't believe, I might get in trouble, but I don't believe in this idea of two ministries in the same house. Like, yeah, I'm so glad I'm not in a church, because I can't see your faces, which makes it better. But I don't believe that there's two callings in a marriage. I believe there's one calling over a family, right? Because if the two becomes one, then how can there be, two callings? That doesn't make sense. So if two becomes one, there has to be one calling, and out of that, there's different gifts flowing. That I understand. So there's different gifts, different strengths that flows from me, that flows from Marise, obviously. But the thing is, we need to get those things in context. We need to get that right, so that we get the family structure strong, get that priority in place, because now everything will jump. Because if that is strong, then I easily stand before the Lord with both of these things in my hand. But if it's out of whack, one is always going to suffer, always. And it could be the ministry too. Yeah. So it's not the one or the other. Either one is going to suffer unless we get the roles right in the house. And then for me, it comes back to, I am the head of the house, but in this case, I'm also the head of the ministry. So for me, it comes back to the fact that I need her. I do, because she's made to be my help meet. According to Genesis 2, she was made to help me, right? That's her job.
Because you need help.
Because I need help. That's the point. I need somebody to get the revelation, right? I need it. And the thing is, so she has to help with the family. She has to help with the ministry. And the point being that if I need her to lead worship, then she needs to, she needs to be empowered to be able to lead worship. If I need you to stay at home with the children now, then that's what we need to do. But for me to appraise or suppress her gift would be absolute foolishness, that would be just hurting myself, you know. So it's never controlling. It's not at all, not at all. And what we have found is that the more we step into our roles in this arena, the more scope there is for both of us to actually live out our calling. It's interesting. It just when this is working and we're both in a place of peace about where we should be, what we should be doing now, it's kind of like things just opens up around us, and it's a constant work. You know, it's a constant thing to be working at and to get understanding. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, just speaking as the wife, and also a wife in ministry. I think I'm fine. In the beginning, I was fine with helping, like being the helpmeet. And I mean, it's beautiful in Genesis. I really encourage every couple, work through Genesis in the Passion Translation. Get the image maker, Brian Simmons' image maker. It is so beautiful. It's been encouraging me so much. Really, I recommend image maker with the Passion Translation of Genesis for every couple and with your family. Work through it. It's amazing. But as a wife, I was willing to help, but I wanted to help the way I wanted to help. And that is, I think, the issue in lots of ministry marriages and just marriages in general, I guess. But he is the one I'm supposed to help. So I need to ask, how can I help? And if what I'm doing is not helping, it's not helping. Then I'm not in my calling, what I've been made for, what God actually told me to do, and to be his helpmeet. And that was really, in the last 10 years of marriage, the 10 years of marriage, it's been our biggest issues, struggles, hurdles to get over with was that thing. Like, how do I help the man that I'm married to? Because once you get married, if you're single, just go about it, do what you want. It's you and Jesus on your adventure, just go. But once you get married, you're under new management. The rules totally change. You go back to Genesis 2, and you're the helpmeet. And don't get married then if you don't want to be there. Because what is it about? It's about the marriage being the picture of Jesus and his bride. And that just came alive to me again in this season. Like, our marriage is supposed to look like Jesus and his bride. And where on earth does the bride tell the groom, tell Jesus what to do or where to go, that I will not? I don't like this. I wanna use this gift now. I feel I'm an awesome worship leader. I will be leading worship now. Nowhere. That will never work. And I think us as women, we're so good with that. That's like our superpower, just not listening and just not obeying. I mean, that's just crazy. It comes so easy, and it's destructive. It's destructive. And we get this very loud message and this loud encouragement from the world that it's okay just to be yourself and be the best you can be. And just feminism, it's insane. And we are like in this conflict thing, and we compare ourselves then to other women in ministry, where you should just be looking at Jesus and you should be looking at your husband. What does he need from me? And then I will get from Jesus, I will get from God, I will get from the Holy Spirit whatever I need to be that in his life for our ministry to work in whatever aspect. And I mean, you can ask Marie, both of us, we've been through this, we've had so many discussions about this, and the revelations, I mean, it's still growing, we're still getting there. I know I've got the picture in my heart, I know I've got the truth, but living it is still a process. That's like a daily thing of just not stop being selfish. That's basically what it comes down to. And the more I've surrendered to this design, this godly design of who God made me to be, the more fulfilled I've become. Like, you can ask Henk, just the peace in our home, the peace in our marriage, because I think it's part of rest. There's no fear, there's no pride, and there's no shame in rest. Think of the garden when Adam and Eve was just walking together, fellowshipping with God, working in the garden that they've been given. And Jesus is looking for a bride to reign with him from his throne. Like, and what is Henk's throne? Every husband must, every wife must ask, what is my husband's throne that God has given him? His garden, and how do I help him in his garden? Not what I want, but there's grace. And I mean, I love Henk's help me, because what he needs actually does come naturally, because God made it like that. Everything he lacks in, I've got it. That's what Genesis says. Bill Johnson said it the other day as well. Like, whatever he lacks, I complete him. And every wife, you complete your husband. It's not Jerry Maguire. It's actually Genesis. It really is there. The Hebrew word is amazing. Go read it. It's crazy. And so it's just been an awesome journey. And I believe the life long. Like, I will only be fulfilled if I've got my own ministry. Within our ministry, doing everything for Jesus. I mean, everything is for the kingdom. Just don't get it wrong. Like, everything is for Jesus. But the conflict, the struggles, the fights, the anger, the offense, the bitterness, the self-pity that I had to work through, it was just totally unnecessary. But I went through that, and the peace is just awesome to have that, and just to be at peace. It's crazy. So no pride. Pride leads to any what is a conflict, fight, strife. It's pride. Pride is the root of that. So think of your marriage decisions, in marriage, in ministry, decisions as making it as a couple. Any strife, it's pride. And in rest, in perfect unity, where there's harmony between you and God and you and your husband, there's no pride, there's no fear, there's no shame. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, and in that's the beauty of it, because in that, if everybody can relax in that sense, like, the gifts actually flourish, and you can utilize the gifts so much stronger. Because I mean, Marise has got she's got an amazing a worship gift on her life, but she also got an incredible teaching gift. So both of those are super valuable to the kingdom. So I want them to be used. I want that to happen. But in the same breath, there's nobody that can impact my children like she can. There's nobody that can create the atmosphere in the house like she can. And that's the thing with the ladies. You guys literally carry the atmosphere in the house, and you actually carry the atmosphere in a bigger context as well when it comes to church. You have such an impact on the atmosphere that's going about. So there's just something that's really powerful. I think older generations, you can correct me, that there was a strong, like, the man's the man, and the woman, you're that. And then it got completely out of whack, where poor men, the younger guys, I'm turning 40 this year, so I'm still young, but there's younger guys. And with all the feminism, all the craziness going on, man, you cannot even open your mouth, because then you're like some, pig or something. I don't know, something's wrong, or you're archaic, or whatever it might be. That's just rubbish. It's wrong. My wife is not oppressed. I mean, look like it. She's not oppressed. She's happy. She's living out her calling, and it's biblical. That's God's design. I read something one time that's really interesting to me. If you look at Genesis chapter 3, verse 16, where it says, it's that interesting verse where it ends, and it says, yet your desire, he's speaking to the woman, and he says, your desire and craving will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. I've always listened to that, and I thought, I don't understand why that's wrong. Right? The rule part I can get, but why is it wrong that she's craving, that whole thing? And I actually read a commentary that put some interesting words to that. According to them, they feel this is one of the worst translated verses in the Bible. And what they say, that word desire, it actually means, if you look at the original text, it actually meant to usurp authority. So it's usurping authority. And that word to rule is to be a dictator. So what happened is God was speaking to him and saying, this is what's going to happen because of the fall. Woman, you're going to want to usurp the authority of the man, and man, you're going to want to dictate over her, and both is wrong.
Precies wat gebeurt.
Yes. You see, and so
Wow.
that's how things got out of balance, where there was actually unity and cohesion, and people were just flowing together. So it's about this balance where I feel unsatisfied unless I'm this, or I feel unsatisfied unless I'm this. But I don't think we understand what it means that husband and wife became one yet, fully. And that's why it's such an awesome picture of Jesus and the bride, because we don't understand that fully yet either. But there's something that changes in that, and I would love to discover exactly how that flows into marriage and into life like that. But if we get that right, then boy, we are an amazing team, and there's power in it, and it's two becoming one that can defeat 10,000, where one defeats 1,000. And it's all of those things together, and you actually see God move in incredible ways, and there's just peace and joy, because this thing, what we're talking about now, that's what gets people in ministry, in all business, whatever, it doesn't matter. But this is what gets marriages. It's this whole, why do I have to stay with the kids? Well, I don't know. And obviously there's exceptions to every, there's exceptions to make blanket statements. Also, there is certain places where the women are leading, they're making more money, go for it, man. But when we're home, that thing needs to settle again, right? And it needs to be an empowering both ways. So it's not okay for this one to be working and this one to have a lesser, smaller job, smaller income, or stay at home dad, whatever. I don't think it's healthy, the stay at home dad idea. I don't think it's healthy, but I understand that there's circumstances, right? But the point is, when we get home, how does wife make the husband feel? Right? Is he still the king of the house? Does he still have authority? Or you know what I mean? And our society has valued the wrong things. We value money, and we value performance and prestige and all of those things, where that's not the way it should be. So yeah, I don't know. I probably opened up a lot of things there, and now I'm just going to leave it and move on. Okay, so the next question that Angelique asked
Angelique's making lots of money
is,
tonight.
how do you make sure that your involvement in ministry doesn't affect your children negatively? And the place it's coming from is just basically, we've seen so many pastors' kids that's spun out, and that behavior is awkward, or they don't even serve the Lord anymore, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think for me, what changed our heart was spending time with David, and then David Hogan in Mexico. That really opened a different world to us in the way we see ministry and family and all of this come together, And Marise grew up in a pastor's house, so she knows. I mean, they have an awesome family, but she knows the good and bad and ugly of growing up in that kind of an environment, and with colleagues and friends and stuff that happens. So she's experienced in that, which is great, because I'm not. So from the beginning, I think that really helped, that Marise had understanding about those things, and she's just like, watch out for these things, and just kind of Frank Under Armour, and just watch out for all of basic things that really hurt them as kids, even though they had an awesome family life. Those are things that gets on your nerves, as a child. So that helped, but what we really shifted, I think the biggest thing that we did, that we made a choice about, is to keep them part of everything as much as we can. So we from young, we make them part of the prayer line. From young, we train them to sit still, so that they can actually join a service with us and be in the service, and not always have to sit in the corner out there and feel like they're a nuisance the whole time. And so still to this day, when I go on a ministry trip alone and I come back, the first thing they do is they ask me, what did you buy me? That's the first thing. That changed recently. And then the second thing is like, okay, but what did Jesus do? Like, what miracles? Like, and then I have to, if I don't have some good miracle stories, they're just like, yeah, I don't know if that really was that
Wasn't a good trip.
was that really
Come
worth
on,
it?
Dad.
So anyway, but the whole point that they are so like, what do we do, man? We want to hear the stories, and they're so excited about it, and they're asking about date raising, and they're asking about, like the diamonds fall, the feather, all of them. I mean, they're just, oh man, and so for them, that really makes them feel a part of it. And I think what happens, and again, we are young in this, so there's a long journey ahead, and I'm well aware of it. But I think what happens is when they feel disconnected from the sacrifice that is asked of the family, that really pees them off, at some point, because it's like we are paying a price, but we have no clue what for. What is this for? So they need to see that, man, this thing is actually worth it, and we get it, we understand it, and it's like understanding that, hey, it's not always easy, and yeah, you're gonna not be able to do whatever, but when we come back, there's a reward waiting. Like in the beginning it's an ice cream, and now it's 2 ice creams, but just you buy them something. And in the beginning it was jumping on the trampoline with them after I've been away for a while, and just giving them all my time for an hour or two, and just play whatever they want to play, buy them an ice cream, buy them the pizza. And I know it's tight sometimes financially, but ice cream is $5, so just do it and make that a priority in the thing. And suddenly it feels, man, this is actually worth it. This thing is, this is worth doing it. And we see the benefit, and we hear the miracles, and we hear the stories, um, so there's really, that was a big shift for us. My kids at the moment, and it's just grace. I don't know if it's anything we did. I'm just grateful, but like they fight about wanting to come alone to the village with me. That's like they fight about it. Like who's gonna come this time? And if I say no, everybody's disappointed and look back, and so I mean, Emma, she can't wait, because I promised her if she's a little older, she'll do like a city church conference with me alone. She can come alone on a trip, like a whole conference. And boy, I mean, that is like the biggest carrot in front of her nose. She's just like, oh my goodness, that's going to be the best day. So for them, those things make them feel connected to the story, and it does slow you down a little bit sometimes, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I just know that your kids basically need you. They, when they are so young, they don't even know they need Jesus. That's why we are teaching them and discipling them into a relationship with God, and they need to grow in this. So it's basically you. It's their mommy and their daddy. And if you're in ministry, which is then your job, our kids many times still ask Henk, so what's your real job? Do you have a real job? Anyway, but if your ministry, which is your job, makes you cry a lot, mommy, and makes you upset a lot, and they see you always depressed or sad or fighting about ministry stuff, fighting about people, names they know, and there's strife, they're gonna go like, I don't like that thing. I don't like what church or missions. I don't like the Transkei. It makes my mom sad. It makes my dad sad. And we've been through patches. Starting a work, it wasn't easy, and we went through lots of things. And we had to. We realized, oh my word, our kids. Emma once, it was a very hard time. And never once did we think like, we're getting a divorce or we're done with the Transkei. Not once. It wasn't even a topic. It was just an issue we had in the village, and we needed solutions, and we were talking about it, and we talked about it passionately. And Emma heard a specific conversation, and her response to me was, but I thought you liked the Transkei. And that just shook me, because yes, I'm called to the Transkei. I love this, but all the emotions and the politics of ministry, it gets to them if it gets to us. And if we lose our peace, they're not going to be happy because it affects the atmosphere in the house, and they just want love and peace. They don't care what you do. They don't mind how much money you make. Kids just need you. They don't care where we sleep. I mean, we've hardly shared our living conditions in the Transkei. And I mean, some people would get a heart attack if they would see where our kids sometimes have to sleep next to what type of stuff on the walls, insects, and they don't know. They don't know the difference. They're too young. We are there, so it's cool. But if we're not happy, and if we don't have peace, and if they don't see us loving each other and being best friends and laughing, their world's gonna fall apart, and there won't be any security, and then it's gonna hurt them. So politics is a no-no. And if there's no, my kids do this all the time, like X, mama, X. So that's what we've learned. That was the hardest lessons the last couple of months, years in starting this thing with kids who's now got a brain. If they're a baby, there's lots of grace. Really, if they're babies, there's lots of grace. But then they get to understand, and then you need to think of what you're saying. And in the end, if you're constantly complaining, if you're constantly depressed, what on earth are you doing? Where's the joy? Where's the peace? Why isn't this like the biggest adventure of your life? What's wrong? What are you doing then? Like, seriously. And that's what God's been teaching us. It's just the joy. And I mean, there's hard times, there's losing at moments, and there's all of it. But the majority of your life, where's that line? Like, it can't be down here. And your poor kids, there's nothing worse for a kid than to see their parents crying, to see their parents fighting, to see their parents upset. It is the worst. It is the worst. I remember, I don't even know if my mom knows this, but I still wasn't in school because I was at home in the morning. So my brother went to school, like grade 2 or something, and I was still pre-primary. And so I was still in my pajamas. I remember it so well. I guess I was 5 or 6 years old. And I jumped. Her bed wasn't even made yet. It was so early in the morning. I think she just sent off my dad and my brother. And I ran to her bed, jumped into her bed, covered myself as to like hide myself from her, just to like Marcus Crack or something. And she came in, but she didn't. And she sat on her bed and she started crying. And I was like, oh my word. I just like, they frozen. Like, why is my mom crying? And I mean, I don't know. I honestly can't remember anything after that, but I've had that in my heart, and I'm so glad I have that because I remember the impact. Now I'm married with 4 kids, and I'm like, oh, just makes totally sense that she just wanted to cry a bit on her bed by herself. So, I mean, my parents are still happily married and whatever. So, but it's just sad. It gets our kids. So make sure you keep your joy. What are you doing with your life? What you're calling, and make them part of everything. They are such a blessing if they buy into what you're doing. It's the biggest blessing. We love doing it with our kids. We love seeing them grow. We love seeing them just like loving a part of the ministry, which is also then probably their calling, like latching onto something, having passion and compassion for a certain part of our life. And I mean, they don't have to be missionaries. We don't expect anything of them. They can go and do anything they want. But now we're a family, and this is our calling, and this is their world. We are the boss of their world, and they will join, and they will be happy, and we will help them. We will help them, and just make sure if all the troops are okay. And there's always that odd one. Every family has that one difficult, challenging one. Like, everybody's the same, and then there's that one. And just make sure they're okay as well. Like, yeah.
And it's never always everybody. It's never like all 4 is okay. I wish that day would come. That would be so.
There's
fantastic.
no sync. No.
Nothing. When you just think you've got this one on board and that one is, I'm like, oh, Jesus, please help. Anyway, so that's just the part, but it's fun, and as long as we can do it with joy, it's good. And sometimes it's really hard. We fail miserably, but most of the time, I think we get it right. I don't know. I hope we get it right. So, Wessel and Marley, they were thrown into this as well. So they also started coming into a culture where they involve their children and everything, and they're part of it. And so there's good days and bad days. That's the other part of it as well. But it is amazing to see how adaptable children are. As you just push them in the right direction and expose them to the right thing. So.
I just want to add something that you touched on it, but it is so important if you're in ministry, especially ministry, because it's working with people and it's always something with God. It's always something with the kingdom. So that's the kids associate everything with God then in the end. Like if they don't like your life, they're going to probably be upset with God about something and they'll have to deal with it. And we just pray that we just keep their hearts together and whatever. But the thing that Henk said earlier, like, it's about feeding my sheep. And we're feeding the sheep. If you're in ministry, you're feeding the sheep, but your children's your sheep as well. And you can't feed your ministry and not feed here. And I just want to say, Henk's really been, like, as a dad, I would encourage all the dads, like, to do that. He feeds his children. He feeds his family as much as he feeds at conferences. We can ask him any question. The kids can ask. He teaches us. He's our spiritual. Whatever he gives there, he gives here. And I can honestly say that. And it's been like that forever. And that is such a powerful thing. I really want to encourage, if you're a dad and if you're married, it's really been helping me. It's been keeping my heart happy. It's been keeping the kids happy. And that's discipleship. And so he disciples his family and he disciples the church in John Sky and local churches. And that's very important. Like, thank you, baby.
Thank you, baby. You're awesome. Right, last question because you guys are tired. So I'm just going to quickly, it's not a long answer, I think. You asked what besides the Holy Spirit, which books do you recommend that really helps you to dig deeper into the Bible? I don't have specific ones. I think for me, I really appreciate a good lexicon, so a good Greek and Hebrew, dictionary that kind of gives you so you have your Strong's dictionary with the numbers, and you get that on eSword and all of those kind of places, which is awesome. But then if you have good lexicons, it really helps. So you have the Tyre, THAYER, the Tyre dictionary, and then the Biggs. What's that one? Something Biggs is the Hebrew one, which is additional dictionaries to that. And I really enjoy them because they give great, they give great definitions to the words, and so the Strong's is like, it's amazing already, but this one kind of takes it into a bit of a next level. So that really helps me. You get it on eSword, it's for free, and on eSword also. I know Bible.com, all of those things. I'm used to eSword in terms of that part of it, so I like eSword. So there's some really good commentaries also on there for free. I like Matthew Henry's commentary. It's old, but I really like his stuff. You get Albert Barnes and guys like that. So I mention him because he's a bit more of a supernatural guy to me in his approach to it. So I really enjoyed his stuff. But I mean, that's old, so it's kind of sad actually. That's even what I'm using. Because I mean, there's guys like R.T. Kendall and Andrew Womack has got a great New Testament commentary. And, so there's great resources out there. So I do use those, but for me personally, the lexicons is basically that I use most. So that for me that works personally. So I would dig into a word, and that would make me jump into different scriptures, and the thing kind of comes together. So cross-referencing for me is where it really gets powerful, where you put different scriptures together in different places and you see the puzzle come together. So for me that's been really great. So as long as you kind of do those things, it's really helpful. And then whatever feeds you in the season, and what I mean with that is read whatever speaks into your spirit, whatever is good for you in that time, you know. So like there's incredible books out there, and I would be so excited about a book, and then I pick it up and I'm just like, man, this thing is not talking to me. It's awesome book, it's just not working. And then a year later I read the same book and it's just like, whoa, that's amazing. It's alive and it's speaking. So I try and be very sensitive when I read. I don't read a lot. I do read a lot, but I on purpose don't do it because I don't want to be an echo. I need to be an original voice. So, you know, but when I read, I try and be really sensitive to what I'm reading. Usually I go through seasons. So where I don't read like I would just touch on something, you know, for a year or so, I wouldn't read. And then suddenly, like, I'm in a season now where I'm just like reading whatever I can get my hands on. I'm loving it, but it's all in line with a certain topic. And it's like God brings it together. So it's just working for me. I love biographies because, you know, there's a lot of theology out there, but biographies, really, I get to learn out of the life of the person. So I'm interested in the process, you know, more than I am about the theology around. I want to see how they got there. So that's kind of what works for me. I know that helps you a little bit. And also different Bible translations. So to put different ones next to each other, really awesome. It's really powerful, you know, so it helps a lot. Yeah. Frank, what are you saying? Mountain of God. Go, go, go. Okay, I'm going to give you the 2-minute version. All right. So basically, for me, this is
Why did you ask me?
No, he's not. He's asking us, so you can answer. Go for it.
I don't know. He's going to answer this one.
So basically, the mountain of God. So you know, so if you look at Hebrews 12, it says that we have come to Mount Zion, the mountain of the living God. Right. So and then it kind of expands on what's there. It's myriads of angels. It's the spirits of those, the saints of those who's made righteous. You know, it's the judge of all the earth. It's the blood of Jesus. It's, you know, all of that stuff. So for me, and then you look at Hebrews, not Hebrews, Isaiah 2, that says it's the mountain above all mountains, right? So, and it speaks of Zion again. So Zion is constantly the theme. Mount Zion is over and over in the New Testament, in the Old Testament and prophets. You keep seeing that, you know, Psalms everywhere. So Zion speaks of a people, but it also speaks of a spiritual realm, which is called the mountain of the Lord. So, why did Jesus curse the fig tree? Maybe. So here's the thing. So Zion represents the realm of the Spirit, the realm of the kingdom of God, the manifest presence of God. So that's why everything points us back to that place. Isaiah 60 is speaking about Zion. Isaiah 60 verse 8, who are these flying like doves on the clouds? And then later on it says that, but you are Zion, we, you know, so it's such a spiritual context. And when he speaks about it, how do you enter into it is basically everything we've been doing the last 2, 3, 4 weeks. So it's approaching the realm of the Spirit and stepping into that, because you have come to Mount Zion. So everything we've been sharing was basically about becoming aware of the spiritual reality that's around you, and you step into that realm. For Zion is where the judge of all the earth sits. So Zion is also a sphere of government in the realm of heaven. You understand? Because there's different places. You are seated in heavenly places. So heaven is not just one. There's a throne room, and there's this and there's that. There's all these different places in heaven. There's a garden. There's a banquet hall. There's the hall of faith that you read about in Hebrews 11. There's a library. There's stuff. And but Zion speaks specifically about the governmental part, because it says in Isaiah 2 that from here the law and the word of the Lord will go out from here, and all nations will come and will be taught from this place. So the mountain of the Lord speaks to me about this place where we actually get counsel from God and where you release that onto the earth. But you have come to Mount Zion, and as you keep on pressing into the stuff we've been talking about, you actually get more caught up in that, and you understand that is your reality. So that's a very simple answer, but that's the way I would do it, because I think it should be simple, you know. But the reality is that I think it was Charlie that mentioned that as well. That's why, you know, I like that 7 mountain thing. I don't have a problem with it. Because I understand what they try to say, influencing media and going all that. I think it's right, but you have to understand that you cannot influence that unless you're coming out of Zion, because it's the mountain that's above all mountains. So it's about understanding that there's the spiritual governance that takes place from this place, and we actually influence from there. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Short answer to a long question.